I'm very focused on continuing to lead a majority government. My government has a record that we're very proud of, a record that's cut inflation in half whilst creating almost 1 million jobs, whilst providing cost of living relief here in Queensland, $1,300 between the Queensland Government and the Commonwealth in energy price relief, whilst making sure that we've given a tax cut to every Australian worker and delivering not one but 2 budget surpluses. We'll have more to do, we'll have more to say going forward about education, about health, about childcare, about our second term agenda, but that is something for the future. Well, we know that cost of living pressures are very real, but my government is addressing them, and I make this point, that Peter Dutton has opposed every single one of those measures that we have undertaken, whether it be cheaper childcare, fee-free TAFE, the tax cuts for every Australian taxpayer. He said we should have an election on it. And Stephen's spoken about health. I mean, this is a guy who thought there were too many free visits to the doctor, who wanted to introduce a GP tax on every single visit to the doctor and wanted to introduce a fee on visits to the hospital as well. This is a guy who was rated as Australia's worst ever health minister. And when people focus in the election on what the choices are, I'm very confident that they'll continue to support the federal Labor government that understands the pressures that people are under and that is doing something to assist them.
Prime Minister, do you regret? Would you be comfortable with a plebiscite nuclear next federal election?
Well, that is a matter for Queensland. What I certainly hope occurs is that Stephen Miles is elected Premier of Queensland. That's what I want to see happen, because that's a way of making sure that this nuclear fantasy, which is completely uncosted, they won't say where it will be. I mean, one of the spots is in Newcastle that in recent months has had a fair bit of activity under the ground. I mean, you don't build a nuclear power station in an area that it has been the subject of a major earthquake in Australia, in Newcastle, where many people lost their lives, and which has seen recent seismic activity as well. They don't have a proper plan here, and it's no wonder that they should be held to account for it.
Prime Minister, it's been 1 year since the voice referendum was voted down. Firstly, why haven't you said anything to mark the anniversary? And secondly, what do you say to Indigenous leaders who are critical about your government's leadership on Indigenous affairs since October 14?
Well, I'll make 2 points. Firstly, that from my perspective, it was a disappointing result. I accepted the gracious invitation of Indigenous Australians that they made in 2017, a request to walk with them in the Uluru Statement from the Heart. They had determined in 2017 that they wanted a constitutionally recognised voice because of their experience, where ATSIC and previous bodies had been abolished with the stroke of a pen. So we took up that invitation. As I might say, the coalition was elected prior to 2019 and again in 2022, said they'd advance Indigenous recognition, and Peter Dutton has committed to a referendum during the next term. Just one of the throwaway lines that are out there.
Anthony Albanese, that press conference there, just at the end, noting, of course, a year since that voice referendum, which we've covered today, on the campaign trail in Queensland, and noting as well that he's not too fast, he says, by being behind a news poll, two-party preferred for the first time since the last election.